Thank you, Mr. Komaran. Great to be amongst such esteemed panel, consisting of, was chaired by Mr. Komaran, then Mr. Trivedi ma'am and Mr. Tripathi, who have shared details about financial services sector, and Tripathi Saab had very uh, lucidly shared details about rural banking from that perspective. Um, so good afternoon to all, Professor Mishra Saab, my faculty colleagues, students, dear students, and all the participants in this conference. I would be typically, difficult task in the sense that my little background of coming from the industry background and then converting into to being an academician. Um, uh, so I would really focus on the later part of my engagement, which I've been doing for the last 15 years, um, which means I will really focus on try and give my perspectives on what is in it for the education sector or we academicians as to how do we address this particular theme of the second part of the theme, which is reskilling workforce for an emerging digital ecosystem. So I would like to, the way I've structured my articulation is A, I'll set the context right. B, dwell upon reskilling, upskilling, and if I may add, thought which has just come to my mind is new skill. So these are the three aspects to the same thing. How do you operationalize it? How do you go about it? Specifically from the point of view of how do you bring in this change of reskilling workforce? Of course, a lot of things have been said about technology, technological disruptions. The panel chairman coming with his rich background from technology, he's already articulated what are the kind of changes and disruptions that are happening in that space. And a related aspect is technological adoption as we go about reskilling. That is going to be also a huge challenge. And finally, I would look at challenges and opportunities for academicians and in particular and for the entire education sector at large. And I would like to really share some little details about the newly recently announced National Education Policy, NEP 2020, and what are the implications for digitalization and the related aspects. We all know that to the center of this entire theme is the human capital. And if I may add, social capital also. So the reskilling typically will really require for all of us to have a closer look at our the human capital and the social capital. It's nothing but how people interact both internally and in the outside, um, you know, um, outside the organizations when we build networks, etc. Um, we all know human capital is crucial uh, for any business. It's a crucial asset, and it is in these times of technological disruptions. It is a human skill, competence, capability, and if I may add, creativity, which will form or result in competitive edge. In fact, these human capital is going to be the source of competitive advantage for organizations across sectors. We all know that, and I'll not dwell much on this because fourth industrial revolution is already there. It can be said that there's a lot of talk about digitalization. However, the digital revolution is just about unfolding to come about actually. And in times to come, I'm sure we'll hear a lot about this revolution, which is going to be affecting, influencing, impacting sectors across board. Now, there's a growing concern with this huge disruptive changes that are going to be coming about, and the concern is both job displacement and talent shortages will impact business dynamism and also social cohesion. On the one hand, large parts of the labor market will be impacted by intelligent systems, automated systems, and the new age technologies. Um, the transformation which we are already are looking at. On the other hand, the technological integration will change the business models. And the first part of the theme of the conference, it has been very intensely debated as to how it will impact businesses and more specifically, what kind of business models are going to be evolving in times to come. And this naturally will require to be driven by human capital, and that is the second part of the. So how do you go about it? So in my opinion, I think a proactive and strategic approach and effort is required by all relevant stakeholders, businesses, employees, businesses, by the promoters, organizations per se, then you have employees and other social stakeholders. Approach will probably be the need of the hour when we go about reskilling the workforce. Now, I would like to share some of the statistics which has been brought out by World Economic Forum. And I think a lot of things have been talked about in terms of loss of jobs, etc. Now, this particular study by the statistics given by World Economic Forum estimates that upskilling about 1.5 million workers in the US alone, uh, uh, whose jobs are threatened, will cost US about $34 billion. Multiply that by 100 times if you want to take an overall worldview. However, so that's the kind of magnitude of the resource commitment which is required to bring about this reskilling. However, this is essential. It cannot be avoided because the cost of inaction will be even worse. Already there is a skill mismatch around the world and millions of jobs are going unfulfilled, as Mr. Komaran had pointed out. You have, on the one hand, you have a lot of unemployment problem. On the other hand, if you want, looking for the people to fill in the slot for new age, skills required for new age technologies, then you find that people are not there, right? So therefore, it will require reskilling and upskilling, and as I said, new skilling. Now, we must differentiate in these terms also. Reskilling is typically, as we all know, the process of learning new skills so that you can do a different job. So jobs are going to be different. However, upskilling will be retraining the same workforce who are for doing the same job. However, they have to be done differently, right? So therefore, from education's perspective, I think we need to put systems and processes in place so that it addresses both reskilling as well as upskilling. In fact, I wanted to share some of the details about what are the kind of skills which are going to be increasingly demanded in times to come, and which are the ones which are going to be declining in terms of the demand profile. Now, increasing over the next few years are going to be analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, creativity, originality, and initiative, technological design and programming coming from the technology space, critical thinking and analysis, complex problem solving, leadership and social influence, because you've got to manage people and manage people who are going to be reskilled per se, emotional intelligence, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation coming out with, and here I think the role of design thinking comes in a big way, system analysis and evaluation. So these are the new set of skills which probably will be demanded in times to come. Declining as we go on the next few years, manual dexterity, endurance and precision, uh, These are the skills which will be declining as we go along. Memory, verbal, auditory, and special abilities, management of financial and material resources. My co-panelists are from that space, but I think they'll be rethinking on as to how they really restructure these financial and material resources. Technological installation and maintenance, that's the hardware part of it. Then reading, writing, math, and active listening. Management of personnel is going to be declining in times to come. I think technology will possibly be managing these things. Quality control and safety awareness. I think the system, the new technologies will take care. Somebody in the early session was talking in terms of putting in SCADA systems in place for quality assurance, for example. Coordination and time management, visual and speech abilities, technology use, monitoring and control, which surprises me to some extent. So these are this gives a snapshot as to what are the kind of skills which will be increasingly in demand and the ones which are going to be, not demanded so much and which are prevalent as of now. So how do you operationalize it? I suggest a three A and an S model kind of thing. Organizations typically, in order to effect reskilling the workforce, need to be aware, have a clear awareness about the jobs that are needed in future and skills that will be required. So there has to be a job to skill fit in any case. The second is assessment. Organizations across board have to have an assessment of the current workforce, will reveal gaps between existing and anticipated skills, both upskilling and reskilling. Then the third one is the S is the strategy. So they have to put a game plan in place. Perhaps the most crucial challenge will be persuading employees and management, and there's a built-in inertia and for employees to really come on board to reskill themselves. So they have to accept. So therefore, you have to have a clear assessment of training and developmental activities within the framework which is required. And finally, you have to buy in. You have to have a buy-in from the employees. They have to accept that the third A, which I proposed. But that's the most crucial challenge, will be persuading employees and management to accept the need for change, and with the understanding that the new skills are needed and will be beneficial both for the employees and the organization, right? As per the newer models that are put in place. I'll not talk much about technology because a lot has been said about it. However, if you do not come to terms with these disruptions, etc., there's going to be greater income inequality, increased unemployment, growing dependence on possibly the government agencies, mass migration. So these are going to be the social after effects of not coming on board to reskill the workforce. These are huge challenges, and they may sound dire. Leaders and visionaries recognize this as an organization, as an obligation today. And we have no choice but to address this challenge. However, I view as an optimist, all challenges are nothing but finely disguised opportunities. So therefore, there is hidden opportunities for all stakeholders in this entire process of reskilling. Some of the top jobs, I thought I shared some skills, the jobs which are likely to emerge in times to come. As Mr. Kaman possibly will agree with me, coming from the technological background, big data architects, renewable energy engineers. Now, this is going to be another huge opportunity. Automation engineers, OD specialists, organizational development specialists, because the organizations need to be restructured, right? So therefore, you have to have you have to put in place learning organizations. And there's another aspect which I wanted to touch in some detail. One is the technology part, the other one, how do you operationalize it? And that will really require absolute fresh look, change mindset in terms of looking at the business processes which you need to put in place, the systems and the processes which we need to develop and put in place. New technologies specialists, because and this, the rate of obsolescence is going to be increasing, in my opinion. Our chairman talked about Moore's law, for example. So therefore, new technology specialists will be required. IT administrators' job will be there. Digital transformation specialists will be required. IT project managers and data analysts, which are general in nature. So these are the new emerging jobs, and jobs which are likely to decline: team assemblers, secretaries and EAs, inspectors, testers, and sorters. The machine will do all that. Drilling and boring machines coming from engineering background, I can see these jobs are not going to be, the machines will do these jobs. Electrical and electronic equipment assemblers, and there's a lesson for, in the novel session we had CEO from Havells. So they already started taking new initiatives to see that these jobs are not going to be there. Milling and planing machine setters, data entry keyers, paper good machine setters, bookkeeping, cashiers from the finance area. So point is that this gives some comparison as to what are the jobs that are likely to be demanded and the which ones which are likely to fade away, right? So all is not gloomy, in the sense that some people talk in terms of a lot of disruption in terms of people losing the jobs, but I'm sure probably at the rate higher than the lots of jobs, newer jobs are likely to be created. So there is the hope, and I'm sure this is an opportunity which all of us will seize. Now, in education sector, I think the fact that when pandemic set in, we had a huge challenge. We were forced to take the entire teaching learning to the digital platform. And as a person who is already superannuated, and so it was so exhilarating to really learn, maybe unlearn certain things, and understand the ropes of the game as it is emerged, right? And, and that is a huge opportunity. So we got the things going in the right here in the school. We brought people online and so on and so forth, right? Um, Lastly, I would like to share some aspects of national education policy, as I mentioned in the beginning, NEP 2020. It has para 23, para 24 talks about, 23 talks about technology use and integration. So I think government is already thinking about bringing in new digital technologies into education space. Also online and digital education, they talked about briefly, ensuring equitable use of technology. These are initiatives are already built in the policy document there. And I think the way forward is to really operationalize these things. Then third aspect is National Research Foundation. And here is an opportunity for educationists typically to undertake researches, which will typically can be used in developing systems, processes, and models to not only train and reskill the workforce, but also train the trainers, so to say. So education sector needs to reinvent itself. And so with these few words, and I would like to conclude by saying that the only thing we know about the future is that it will be different, quite different in my opinion. And thank you very much. And back to Mr. Komaran